we ask Saskatchewan what they know about 5G?
More speed, more innovation.
It's gonna make our lives a whole heck of a lot easier.
This is what 5G looks like.
Better, faster.
Sounds like one more G. Sounds pretty good.
I don't know what it means.
All you really need to know is the future of 5G is here and will continue improving through investments in network technology.
Welcome back to Martensville, Saskatchewan. It's the final draw, the championship final of the curling stadium, Martensville International. My name is Jason Chang, and with me, Mr. Probability, the 2019 Canadian World Junior Champion, Matt Hall. Matt, what a great final we have. It's a rematch of the final of the event last weekend in Saguenay. Clancy Grandy against Silvana Tirinzoni.
Yeah, I think we're in for quite a treat here. This is the third meeting actually between these two teams. Silvana was able to come out with the victory last event, a 6-4 win in the championship final, but Clancy Grandy got her licks in earlier this weekend with a 5-3 victory over them in the round robin. So I would expect a very close game here, and I wouldn't be surprised if it came down to the last stone.
Both teams went through the preliminary round at 4-1. Clancy Grandy actually had to play a quarterfinal match, beating Jennifer Jones to make it to the semifinal. Both teams won their matches fairly handily to set up this rematch final from 1 week ago. They did do a draw to the button for last stone advantage. Clancy Grandy, their team won it, so they do have last rock in the first end.
And I think that's huge. There's no ignoring the pedigree of this Tirinzoni team. Alina Petz herself, a 4-time world champion. Silvana, at least 2 or 3 times now. So they definitely have the experience to win these championship matches. So a great start by Clancy, able to clinch the hammer, and a great start to put themselves in a good position for this game.
Well, certainly the resume of Silvana Tirinzoni and Alina Petz, hard to match. Certainly the last 4 or 5 years have been quite dominant, particularly at the World Championships. They've won 3 together in the last 4 years, including the last one. And Alina, she has her own World Championship, I believe, as a skip and fourth rock thrower. And I think she actually has one as an alternate for Miriam Ott a little bit earlier in her career.
Miriam Ott or Binya-Felcher, one of those for sure. I do remember her being a 5th. I can't remember for the exact team. I think you are correct. I think that was, well, I'm stretching my knowledge here. Maybe 2012 sounds about right, but definitely plenty of experience that they're able to lean on in these big matches here, and should be a lot of pressure on both of these teams. Looking at the pay structure for this event, first place will go home with $10,000 and second place going home with 5. So a pretty good payday for the weekend for both of these teams, but obviously both of them wanting to come home with that extra $5,000.
Yeah, $5,000, basically $5,000 extra on the line for this victory. A little bit more money than the beer league that I'm in. Matt, you talked about the importance of hammer. What do the stats say? The team with hammer starting the game, what's the advantage in terms of win percentage?
It's about 60% in general between two evenly matched top teams. Now, that depends on also who do you think is, do you think these two teams are evenly matched? I think it's very difficult to not favor Silvana at least a little bit here with their pedigree and deep expertise. So definitely whatever you think it was coming into this game, Clancy Grandy already off to a little bit of a better start.
And as we mentioned just a little bit earlier, Clancy Grandy and Silvana Tirinzoni, they did play earlier this weekend, 5-3, Clancy Grandy with the victory. So it should be a great match we have here. Men's final also happening at the same time. Another Swiss team in that final. Yannick Schwaller, the skip, fourth row thrower Benoit Schwartz. They're playing against the Japanese team skip Bariku Yanagisawa. Of course, you can pull that stream up as well and watch both simultaneously.
Here we're seeing the first stone by the Grandy third, Kayla McMillan. They're also backed up by lead Sarah Loken, and on the left side of your screen, the second Lindsay Dubé. Looking to try and make just a nice, easy weight hit here. You don't want to roll out and give Silvana the free opportunity to draw around the guard, although it looks like that's what's going to end up happening. That hit maybe a little extra weight than what they were expecting, runs a little bit straighter, does at least remove the blue stone, but leaves a free chance here for Silvana to get her draw weight, and if she can put it in a good spot, put the pressure on Clancy early.
Yeah, for those viewers who might be from Ontario, you will recognize that Clancy Grandy name, but maybe not the rest of the team. From those of you in BC might recognize Kayla, Lindsay, and Sarah, but not recognize Clancy's name. Matt, can you tell us a little bit more about this team?
Yeah, so the other three players, other than Clancy, have played together for at least 2 seasons, I want to say now. Last year, they were the runners-up at the BC Scotties, losing a very close final to Marianne Arsenault. I remember watching that game, and Kayla actually had a tough shot to win it, but it was there, and just that one shot away from going to the Scotties. So a very experienced team here, and decided to bring in Clancy in the offseason. Clancy herself, a former Grand Slam champion with Allison Flaxey a number of years ago. So she's no rookie herself and has plenty of experience to bring to this team that hopefully they can improve enough to make that one extra move up to get to the Scotties this year. And with Marianne Arsenault, I believe, stepping back from competitive curling, it's sort of a wide open door for somebody to take that BC crown.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, Silvana, they tried to come around that center guard. They come up short, and now you have a double center staggered guard. So pretty simple decision here for Team Grandy. They're going to come around it, try to sit top 4.
Yeah, I think it's a good indicator that they are ready to play, and they're not going to shy away from this very strong Silvana Tirinzoni team. Certainly with the stagger, they could have just walked up and double peeled the guards and played for the blank if they really wanted to, but deciding to maybe take the opportunity that's handed to them and put a little bit of pressure. And I would say a very good draw there. Maybe would have liked a little bit more curl, but otherwise I think they'll take that for the first end.
12 women's teams started this competition. 5 preliminary round games that whittled the field in half. 6 made the playoffs. As mentioned, both Silvana Tirinzoni's team as well as Clancy Grandy, they went through the playoffs with a 4-1 record. How they got there? Well, Silvana Tirinzoni beat Ashley Howard, Daniela Jensch. That lost to Clancy Grandy, but then beat Jennifer Jones and Lorraine Schneider to book her ticket to the semifinals. A pretty easy win against Chelsea Carey earlier in this afternoon. And of course, that sets things up tonight. Rematch against Clancy Grandy.
Yeah, and let's not forget what Clancy has already done today. Knocked off a young up-and-coming Mackenzie Zacharias team, generally skipped by Jennifer Jones, but Jennifer did take the morning off this morning, and that game came down to the very last shot. Clancy made a great double and then came up very strong against the team Unchi Kim out of Korea and came home with the win from that. So this is their 3rd game for today. So keep an eye out, especially as we get to the second half. Keep an eye out for those sort of looks that they might be getting a little bit tired, because they do have that extra 8 ends of play today that Tirinzoni didn't have to go through.
Yeah, it was a very close back and forth 8-end game this morning against the Jones Zacharias ring. That was the quarterfinals. They had a bit of an easier time against Team Gim in the semifinals, and now, of course, against Silvana Tirinzoni. Well, they were trying to play a freeze, maybe a freeze tap, Alina Pets, but that rolls off, and now really good opportunity to sink another one behind that double staggered center guards.
Yeah, all alarms are sounding here for the Clancy Grandy squad. You put this rock in a very good spot, and how you don't get at least 2 or maybe 3 is a very difficult question. You freeze this to the red stone, and obviously there's no run back. Those guards are staggered, and Tirinzoni, unfortunately, maybe rolled just a hair too far with her blue rock that you can't really come in off of that either. So put this in a good spot, and you're setting yourself up well to start this game. Although this one may be sliding a touch deeper than they would like.
Yeah, you want it to roll off now. Kind of sit side by side here.
Yeah, a bit of a missed opportunity. That being said, it is still very difficult, I think, to get out the shot stone. But definitely Silvana could freeze one down into that pocket and make it a very difficult draw on the other side of the sheet for Clancy Grandy. Silvana's team, of course, we are well aware of Silvana and Alina Petz's success the last number of years playing together, but they actually have a new front end. They're backed up by new lead Briar Hurleman and second Carol Howald. I believe Briar played with Alana Stern and Carol played with Irene Shorey last year. I may have that backwards, but both of them coming from other Swiss squads and taking the front end's place on this new team as their front end decided to take a step back from the competitive game.
Yeah, obviously Silvana Tirinzoni and Alina Patz, they've been the staple team we've seen from the women's side of Switzerland, but Switzerland produces so many good teams on both the men's and the women's side. Irene Shorey, Elena Sterner, both have been playing at a very high level over the years. In fact, I think Sharon won the Swiss Nationals a couple years ago. The COVID season, I think, they may have won the Nationals.
I believe so, and I believe they were tour winners as well. I think I remember them winning an event against Rachel Homan at one point. So, obviously, very good young team, but it's really tough when you're living in the same country as Silvana Tirinzoni. You got to be that much better.
Well, when you have someone like Tirinzoni and Lena Petz throwing that last stone, laying down that freeze into the pocket, well done, I think.
I think so.
Pats get second shot stone there or not?
I think they did get second shot. I think that's pretty much all you could do. And given that situation, maybe if it was later in the game, you have a really good feel for it. You could try and tap that shot stone out, but I mean, they got pretty close to the guard already. And I think given the situation, they'll be pretty happy walking away with only giving up 2. But still leaves some work to do here for Clancy. You do have a little bit of backing, but you can't move it too much. This is more or less just a straight draw. Need a piece of the button for 2 points.
First then, Clancy Grandy opportunity to strike first with a draw to the button for 2. They did do pre-game practice, so should have a good idea of draw weight, but does need a piece of the button.
I believe this was the same side of the sheet that they threw their draw for hammer 2, so this should be close. Sweeper's working it into the rings. Maybe need to bring it that little bit further.
Can they get it there? Did they get it there? I think just. They're having a good look at it.
One
Any
for
guesses,
sure.
Matt?
I think they got it there, although my feed that we have is a little small on my screen, and yes, they did. A signal by Silvana Tirinzoni that it is a second point for Clancy Grandy. Great sweep by the front end there. They'll take a 2-0 lead over Team Tirinzoni, who will have the hammer in the second end.
Imagine being able to stream every curling game from every sheet from any event, be it your Wednesday league game, bonspiel, or corporate event. Curling Stadium offers an all-inclusive streaming solution featuring high-quality cameras, ease of use, great reliability, and minimal installation. Offering your sponsors customizable ad space on your streamed curling games and being able to sell video packages to your corporate events for increased revenue. With Curling Stadium, you can stream to any device, be it your mobile phone, tablet, or computer. Push the feed to your desired platform, be it Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media. Curling Stadium is simply the way forward. Where it's commonplace in other sports to televise every game, we want to do the same. Curling is a global sport, and it's time it gets the coverage it needs. Make your curling club the next Curling Stadium.
Imagine a place with endless possibilities.
Imagine a place where people come together to build families, businesses, and communities. Imagine a place where small-town values and progressive qualities are in perfect harmony. Imagine a place rich with so much vitality. Imagine your future in Martensville.
Second end just underway. Team Grandy, they strike first in the first end, taking 2 on a fantastic draw, even better sweeping. 2-0 lead, Team Tirinzoni with the hammer. Matt, we talked a little bit about this in the semifinal draw that we covered. The team that scores 2 in the first end maybe have a 75-80% chance of winning the game.
Yeah, probably a bit closer to 75, somewhere around there for the top women's teams. It looks like, but again, don't count out this Tirinzoni squad. It's not the first time they've been down early, I'm sure, in their career, and I'm pretty sure most of their world championship wins have been very close games where it's battled back and forth. So I wouldn't expect them to give up. I would expect this to still be a close game. They'll be very close, but keep an eye out. That could be a very good momentum setter for the Grandy squad. Other than that one draw that slipped maybe a little bit deep where they could have had the chance to maybe set up a 3, it was a very well played end by them, and they capitalized on Silvana's mistakes.
A small miscue from the Grandy team on their first rock out of play, so they're putting up the center guard. And now Silvana Tirinzoni asking her lead Briar Hurlman to go around their corner guard. And if the Hurlman last name sounds familiar, it definitely does. Matt, I don't know how old you are exactly. Were you born in 1998?
I was about 1 year old, so
okay. So
I
obviously
feel like I know where you're going with this, but I'm
were
maybe a bit
obviously
too young
watching
to
the
tell
Nagano
story.
Olympic Games at that point, and Patrick Hurlman from Switzerland beats Canada's Mike Harris in the final. Patrick Hurlman, I believe, is the father of Briar Hurlman.
So coming up short there, Briar on the come around leaves another corner guard, but that hole is pretty much stuffed now. There's no other way to get in there, so Clancy is going to take the opportunity to now draw around this center guard and potentially force the play into the middle of the sheet, which will make it tougher for Tirinzoni to generate her deuce.
Yeah, that right side of the sheet right now, from the thrower's perspective, blocked off. So that will be something that Team Tirinzoni has to worry about. One side of the sheet, the draw path is gone towards the middle. Got to make sure you have a draw path. If you don't, if you have the hammer, that's one of the golden rules of skipping when you have last stone.
Yeah, and looking at those stones on the other side, I don't think there's a hole. There might be one between the red rock and the middle blue stone there, but that's a very tight hole to navigate and find your way through. So instead, Silvana's going to take the opportunity here to just play the run back, try and get this rock off the forefoot.
Very close. Runs it back. The 2 reds spill out. Shooter rolls a little bit off the center line. I think Clancy will just go around it. It's still almost a center guard, so still a good opportunity for Clancy Grandy to continue putting the pressure on.
Yeah, but still leaves that center guard a little bit. It is slightly off center now, so the best Clancy could do would be to draw the side of the button. But now it's all Silvana's colors up there. So if she ever has to play the run back again, opportunity if you could ever stuff it in there to sit shot stone. And And it appears it was Yannick Schwaller starting off with 2 points in their game. So they'll take a 2-0 lead over Riku Yanagasawa to start off the men's final. The opportunity here for 2 Swiss teams to cash big checks and go home with the championship. Clancy Grandy, the only Canadian team remaining in contention, and Team Yanagasawa from Japan on the men's side.
A really good start for Yannick Schwaller there on the men's side. I believe Schwaller and Yanagasawa played in the preliminary round. Yanagasawa came out on top.
Yeah, he beat both Mike McEwen and Yannick Schwaller, so definitely wasn't an easy field for Riku, but comes in with some clutch wins and was able to pull off the win against Steve Laycock this morning, and the undefeated Colton Flash in the semifinal. So maybe a name that not a lot of people would know here on this side of the pond, but certainly making waves for themselves and generating some good momentum coming into this final.
Team Grandy, they'll try to play this draw a little bit better than the last one. This time, top 4 buried. Nicely done.
Definitely puts it in a very good position there. So if you're Silvana, I think you're just sort of worried about making sure you can score.
You can definitely make the run back double and stick it right on the nose, I think.
Absolutely. Would be very precise, but you do have some options too. If you don't end up just stuffing it, there's a whole half of the sheet that's guarded that you can stick around in. Going to be very close.
Very close. Just crosses the nose a hair and still picks off the top rock. That is the more dangerous rock. The unfortunate thing is maybe that shooter rolled to a perfect center guard.
Yeah, but it does widen up that hole a little bit. That's just between the 2 blue stones. I think there's enough room to maybe just squeeze a stone through there. So an option there for Silvana if they ever have to play that. I'm sure they're hoping that it doesn't come to that, but certainly a possibility.
McMillan, third stone thrower for Team Grandy. Trying to get this top 4 behind the center. This is going to come up a bit short. Nudges the blue guard over. I think the port is still there if you wanted to draw.
I think you could play it either way. You could play a straight draw to the 4-foot or try and hit that back stone. It is maybe not just a little bit too tight to play the hit because you probably have to play the out turn so you're curling off that red rock, but definitely going to take the opportunity for a draw. And if you ever touch the wide corner guard, move it out of the way. You still have the opportunity to roll into a good spot.
This is the last of the third stones. Silvana Tirinzoni trying to come through this port. Needs full 4-foot to be shot stone. Sweepers have backed off of it. Does it mean it's a little heavy? Slips all the way to the back 12. Well, opportunity for Team Grandy to get to the top 4 first.
And so I will say some slight apologies to Briar. She is actually, well, she may still go by her last name, but I'm seeing somewhere that it might actually be Briar Schwaller now, as her and Yannick Schwaller just got married in July of this year. So congratulations to them. And now both
Newlyweds, they're both on the ice.
Yeah, now they both find themselves in the final of their first, or I guess second event for the Tirinzoni team, but early on the season. Be a nice wedding present to walk home with an extra $5,000 each, wouldn't you say?
You've got at least 5,000 in the bag already. Try to make it 10,000. That'd be a great weekend in Canada. Of course, another couple on the ice on the Swiss side. Sven and Alina, I believe. They are partners as well. Well, that draw also comes up short, so same shot opportunity here for Alina Pets. Draw through this port to the top of the forefoot. I think it's pretty important for Alina to make this shot, because if she doesn't, the draw paths are all gone almost. There's a wall of guards in front of the ring. She does have a few rocks she can promote. Same with Clancy Grandy, but top four, that's where you want to be if you really want to score 2 out of this situation. This one also slipping a little bit deep in his second shot stone back of the 8-foot. Advantage Team Grandy, I think.
Yeah, just slips that little bit too far. Made a good adjustment, but unfortunately just needed it to stop a foot shorter. Now the real good chance for Clancy Grandy, if she can come in through that hole and place this rock right in the top of the forefoot, it's going to be very difficult to see a way that Silvana will score without playing some kind of run back.
Yeah. Team Grandy, they do have to be in the house. I think that red stone is shot stone, but there are 2 blue stones right now in the ring. So if you don't hit the rings, a run back is there to sit 3 for Team Tirinzoni.
And even if you do hit the rings, depending on where you put it, this team is so good at those run backs, they might take it on anyways, a run back double for 3.
If you can get enough finish curling it past the center line a bit, I think the run back double would be quite difficult. They're now trying to sweep it for curl. It's a bit on the wide side.
No. That is a big mistake. Not only just the fact that they wrecked on the guard, but pushed that blue stone in. And question now is, did they roll a little bit too far? It's a very tight hole there, but if you can make it through, you're almost guaranteed to get that back stone for 4. What a change. That was maybe the one thing that you couldn't do there.
Yeah, push that guard into the rings. The port definitely is there.
And what a surprise. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about that. Possible, maybe they weren't either, that was a possibility. The situation looked so good. I guess if you end up missing that on the tight side, hit the other guard, you're probably fine, but weight seemed okay. It just sort of hung out for them, and a big opportunity now. Final rock in the second end. Alina Pets trying to navigate through this tight port and have a shot for 4.
Team Grandy took 2 in the first. Team Pats, they have a chance for 4 in the second. They just clipped the guard. It almost redirects back onto the red stone, but just grazes it. It is a steal of 1. Team Grandy gets away with it and takes a 3-0 lead through 2 ends of play.
SaskTel Be Kind Online wants to stop cyberbullying. Want in on the action? We award up to $1,000 for youth initiatives that help spread kindness and prevent bullying. What great idea do you have to help stop bullying? SaskTel can help. Go to BeKindOnline.com and apply for a grant today. Together, we can make a difference.
Imagine a place with endless possibilities. Imagine a place where people come together to build families, businesses, and communities. Imagine a place where small-town values and progressive qualities are in perfect harmony. Imagine a place rich with so much vitality. Imagine your future in Martensville.
Team Grandy leading 3-0, playing the third end now. Tirinzoni continues to hold the hammer. Missed opportunity there for Alina Pats to score 4. They'll have to find a way to claw back into this game. If you're just joining us, my name is Jason Chang. With me is Matt Hall. We're bringing you the action from the ice to your device one more time this weekend. We've gone through 14 preliminary round draws, quarterfinals, semifinals, and now the championship final today. If you've been with us throughout the last 3 or 4 days, thanks very much. Curling Stadium, Martensville. Every sheet, every match. Well, down by 3. I think the strategy is pretty simple in terms of the first rock. You got to throw up the corner guard if you've got the hammer. That's what Tirinzoni asks for and gets.
Yes, and I was just saying before I realized that my mic was muted that Clancy really breathing a sigh of relief after that last end. Silvana, or Alina Pets, I should say, coming so close to making her way through that port. Just wrecks on one of the guard, but unfortunately just slides by. And if you're Clancy Grandy, maybe just taking a minute in between those ends, taking a deep breath and recognizing that you're in control of this game, but you still need to be sharp because as we saw, one miss out of nowhere is all it's going to take to really hand things back to this Tirinzoni team.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of big numbers being put up. The semifinal matches all had some large scores hung on the boards. None of them went the distance because of that. Tirinzoni, in fact, scored 4 against Chelsea Carey in the first end of their semifinal. They decided to just go around this corner guard or put up a second corner?
I think based on the weight and the fact that they're sweeping, I think they were trying to go around. You'll see they're actually carrying it quite well. It's going a bit further than I expected it to. Does get it into the ring, so they do go around, puts it in a pretty good spot. Slightly visible. You could see Clancy try and make a slight play on that rock, but instead she decides probably that the distance between the guard and the stone is small enough that she could always play a run back later. So going to take the opportunity here to just toss up another center guard, give her something to work with later in the end.
Yeah, and if you decide to chase that blue stones at the top of the 12 and you end up wrecking on the guard, if you push the guard out, everything goes back in place because it is still the 5 rock free guard zone rule.
Right, you'd have to be very careful and very precise about the weight that you would decide to throw at that shot. Instead, deciding just throw up the guard here and you'll be able to peel that on your next shot.
Yeah, you'll definitely get something out of this if you throw a guard. Well done. Starting to get a little bit busy in the middle of the rings down the center line for Silvana, expecting her to make some sort of a play off one of these guards. maybe roll towards another guard. She's motioned for the hit and roll a couple of times. You can do it off the top rock. You can do it off the second rock as well.
Absolutely. Taking a long look at this. I think she's going to try and play the tight rock. Try and make the double if you can. Hit it pretty close to nose. You likely won't roll into the rings, but if you can get moving over towards that corner guard a little bit, you can put yourself into a pretty good spot. It's to curl up a little bit here at the end. Don't want to dead jam it. They will
Carol
just...
Hall, the second stone thrower, just jams it dead, as you were saying, rolls the shooter completely out.
Yeah, and you really wanted to keep that away. You didn't necessarily have to make the double, but you would have liked to at least keep that rock you were running in somewhere in the open where you'd be able to access a hit on it later. With where it is now, Clancy sort of has an opportunity in hand. Thought we might see her walk up and attempt to play the double, or possibly even just peel the corner, because Silvana, if she peels your corner, then there's nothing to use, but instead opting for maybe a bit more of an aggressive call here, which kind of goes in line with what we've been seeing from them for the first couple ends, trying to draw around this setup in the center of the rings and get another rock in a good spot.
Yeah, one rock already fully buried, biting the top 8, trying to get this one around that, maybe into the top 4 T-line area. They are sweeping it hard. They do chip off their own red stone. I know this path, that draw path, was probably the more natural one. You could have tried going on the outturn side as well. And I thought if you went the outturn side, if you didn't make it, you were less likely to leave your rock exposed and leave Silvana a hidden roll behind the corner. She's got both rolls right now, the hidden roll behind the corner or the center.
Absolutely. I think just intuitively, I feel like the hit and roll behind the corner might be a little bit better, especially because they chipped off that red stone. They pushed it sort of half into the open. Now, not entirely sure that's accessible, but you'd think with some kind of hacker board weight, you'd be able to remove that stone and maybe stick around. Problem with rolling behind the center is you get in the way of removing that red stone later. Though it probably is the
you
more...
almost want to make sure you roll a little bit more rather than a little bit less, right? If you roll it even exposed on the other side a couple of inches, then that red stone can still be removed, and it also prevents the other team from raising the red into your own blue.
Absolutely, and they just unfortunately don't quite get that far. Leave a little bit exposed on the center line side. Now Clancy has the option. She could play this both ways. Could play a straight hit on the blue or raise the red into the blue and roll over to the side of the rings herself. I think I would instinctively go for just try to straight hit the blue rock. If you hit the red-blue combination and roll your shooter, that red will likely still be a little bit exposed, and depending on where your shooter rolls, you might leave a double. With this blue one, if you roll to the other side of the sheet, it doesn't really matter where you go as long as you don't stick right beside that red stone. Probably not leaving a double in play.
You'd like to be able to play this soft enough to keep the shooter around and sit shot in second. If you roll completely out, Team Tirinzoni will have a chance to make a quiet hit and sit 2. And those 2 blue stones, if she has a chance to do that, would be quite separated. The double would be very difficult. Sweeping this in now.
And rolling that red to a very nice spot. You don't want to roll too far underneath that corner guard and give Alina the opportunity to maybe come down and try to freeze to it to generate her through that way. But rolls just enough to choke off the corner, really forces them to now decide what they want to do, and they're going to go with the straight draw around the center guard.
So it is a draw for Tirinzoni. Trying to come around this center guard.
As we watch a rock come into the rings, it's Carol Howard on the left, Briar Hurleman on the right, trying to get this rock buried, get a little bit of finish.
They get it there for a shot stone, top of the 4-foot.
Definitely got it there, but did maybe just not quite enough. They might still be close enough that you can run this short red run back from the top of the 12 in. Other option, of course, is to play the freeze.
Yeah, I think this red-blue combination is there.
I would take a long look at it if you think that it is. Another good thing about it is it sort of raises that red stone if you can make it to a spot that would make the draw very difficult again for Silvana.
If you were to take that red-blue on, I'd play it with, well, you want it to be soft weight because you might need some finish on the rock to get the contact at the right angle, but also softer weight. You want to keep the shooter around because if you ever picked off the red stone cleanly, then you only have that one red stone in the rings, and that's completely open, and Silvana can hit it and sit 3. So there is some danger playing the red-blue combination. I think they've decided to maybe draw around everything.
I'm not sure.
Or corner freeze?
I think corner freeze the blue. I think that was the call. I don't know where you could draw around. I think if you try and draw around everything, Alina's just going to follow you down and freeze and set up a 2 that way. So likely just trying to corner freeze the blue.
Yeah, there isn't much room to draw around everything and sit shot stone. You'd have to be on the back 4, fully in the back 4. So corner freeze is a good call here. Comes up a little bit short. That one blue stone, that is shot stone, is still quite vulnerable. The outside red, I think it might even be easier to hit it onto the blue now. With that other red stone right beside it, it might just naturally redirect it right back, even if you don't hit it on a perfect angle.
Yeah, I think so. Although Silvana's going to take the opportunity here. She can make a great hit and roll in behind. I agree, it's pretty much tailor-made, but puts that much pressure on executing that shot. Does not want to just nose this and stick right there.
It'll leave a double if you did that. They're trying to help this over. Catches it a little bit on the thin side. Will it stick around the house?
And possibly maybe just a little bit too much weight at that shot. Certainly was still makeable, but thought she might play something a little bit more precise. Maybe a hack waiter just to try and flop in behind. But either way now, good opportunity for Clancy to make this shot. One thing you do have to be careful of, as you said, you could just sort of pick this stone and it'll redirect off your own red into the blue. Just have to be a little bit careful about where those reds are going to spill to. If you lose your shooter, you could end up leaving a double to sit 2 for Tirinzoni.
So trying to leave all 3 red rocks after this shot is pretty critical right now.
Just checking in on the men's game quickly. It was a single point for Riku Yanagisawa in the second end. So Schwaller with the 2-1 lead and the hammer in the third end of play. And you can follow that game on Curling Zone's YouTube page or the Curling Zone website. They are also offering Japanese language coverage of that game as well. So if there's anybody tuning in from Japan to watch Yanagasawa, you can head over to that game, and the link to the Japanese coverage is in the chat box.
It's great to have the international coverage as well, thanks to our colleagues, our Japanese and Korean colleagues covering games in Japanese and Korean for their teams. And if you are in Japan and also have our stream open, Ohayo gozaimasu, good morning. Well, that didn't work out quite right there for Team Grandy. Hidden flop, I think, is what's being called for Alina Pets. Try to flop behind that center guard.
Absolutely, the opportunity, and if you make it, you have to be very careful. If you're Clancy Grandy, could always slash that other redstone in, but that's only one red rock, and if you don't get a couple of them going, could be a chance for 3 for Silvana. This one needs some curling to do, though.
Breyer helping it over. It doesn't get across the face, does make the takeout, but does leave a double.
And not a very difficult one, too. You do have to be a bit careful about your weight selection here, because you do need to hit this about 2/3 on the high side or 3/4 to make the double. You don't want to roll out. Of course, if you make the double and you do roll out, still only giving up 2, which I'm sure Clancy won't be all that upset about, but the chance here to make a good shot, you might be able to walk away from this with a force.
Even if you make a nose hit, it's not bad, because Alina Pats can't make a nose hit back and be second shot stone, I don't think. And it is taking some of the draw path away as well.
One of the things I'm looking at is that redstone that's in the rings right now. Is there enough space between it and the guard to possibly make a double if you had to? Say if Clancy ended up nosing this rock here or slightly rolling in behind. It's tough to say. It's pretty tight, but I'm sure if it's there, Alina will see it.
Do you think he can make the double and hold the shooter?
It's tricky to say. I think you can if you throw maybe a nice, easy, controlled weight, hit about 2/3. It's questionable whether you'll be able to get both blue stones out, but I'm pretty certain you could push them at least far enough to sit 2. This has to curl a ton, though.
Struggling to make contact with the first one. It does, but just chips everything over. Will the other blue go far enough? Not at all. Team Tirinzoni sitting 2 right now. There's a possible shot for 4 if they want to take it on, but that one does have some risk.
No doubt. Do have to push it through the hole. It's not the tightest hole I'm sure they've seen, but it's certainly there. Just hit this rock about half on the high side, 2/3. Should be able to push it through and get 4. And I think that was the weight that you want to throw if you're Clancy there, to make sure that you keep your shooter once you've made the double. But unfortunately, just getting a little bit wider, and that's sort of been the tail of the tape today. We have seen a little bit less curl here today than maybe we saw earlier in the weekend. Regardless, the chance here for Alina Pets. Final rock here in the third end, with the chance to take the lead.
Could have drawn for 3 Instead, trying to hit for 4 in the lead. This rock is curling. Will it make the takeout? No, it over curls, jams on the red, and a gift to Team Clancy Grandy. They steal another one and take a 4-0 lead after 3.
Imagine being able to stream every curling game from every sheet from any event, be it your Wednesday league game, bonspiel, or corporate event. Curling Stadium offers an all-inclusive streaming solution featuring high-quality cameras, ease of use, great reliability, and minimal installation. Offering your sponsors customizable ad space on your streamed curling games and being able to sell video packages to your corporate events for increased revenue. With Curling Stadium, you can stream to any device, be it your mobile phone, tablet, or computer. Push the feed to your desired platform, be it Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media. Curling Stadium is simply the way forward. Where it's commonplace in other sports to televise every game, we want to do the same. Curling is a global sport, and it's time it gets the coverage it needs. Make your curling club the next Curling Stadium.
SaskTel Be Kind Online wants to stop cyberbullying. Want in on the action? We award up to $1,000 for youth initiatives that help spread kindness and prevent bullying. What great idea do you have to help stop bullying? SaskTel can help. Go to BeKindOnline.com and apply for a grant today. Together, we can make a difference.
Well, what a big swing there. Tirinzoni had already 2 in the bag, took some risk to try to play the hit through the port for 4 instead. The risk didn't pay off. It jams off their own stone, rolls the Grandy stone into the button, and it is another steal. It's 4-1, Clancy Grandy over Silvana Tirinzoni.
Absolutely, and it's tough to see. This is not the Alina Pets that we're maybe used to seeing. Granted, that shot in the second end was not easy. It was a very tight port that she had to try and navigate through and didn't quite make it. But that, I mean, for all intents and purposes, that's a pretty much an open hit. You hit a half rock on the high side, and even if you roll out, you still get 3. But maybe just trying too hard for that 4th ends up just over curling a little bit, and Clancy sort of dodges her 3rd bullet of the game, possibly walks away with a 4-0 lead. But this game could have swung so many times already.
Now, we discussed the fact that Silvana, they could have taken the easy draw for 3 and took on no risk for that, for 1 extra point. Would have had 2 in the bag. Are they thinking odds and even ends? If they take 3, they're tied game, but they've given even ends back on a tie score to Clancy Grandy, and they believe they might be an underdog. So they wanted to go for the 4 and take that lead.
I don't know if that's necessarily in their thinking. I think they saw the opportunity for 4 and smelled blood in the water, and unfortunately just weren't able to come away with it. Like, I thought the weight choice was maybe a bit surprising that it was that light, that red ended up sticking around and it curled as much as it did. But otherwise, it's the right call. It was just poor execution, I guess, just maybe over curled from what they expected it to do, and unfortunately just end up jamming it.
Well, they'll have to lick their wounds and regroup here in the 4th end. 4-0 once again, Team Grandy over Team Tirinzoni. That being said, I think Team Grandy, they've dodged a couple bullets, as you said, so they also need to tidy up their game as well, or else they're going to keep leaving these opportunities for Tirinzoni and Alina Pets. At some point, they're going to make it one if you keep giving it to them.
Absolutely, and I think with the skill level of this Tirinzoni team, you can't just choose to run and hide quite yet. If this was, the 6th end, maybe the 5th end, and you were up 4-0, sure, you can just sort of take it a little bit easy, walk up, peel some guards, and force Silvana to push the envelope. But Silvana's already shown a couple times they have the opportunities to generate big scores, and just because they haven't capitalized on it yet doesn't mean they won't in the future. So first stone here for Lindsay Dubé. Believe the call was to try and come into the rings frozen, either top button or frozen to the one rings, or did they call the guard?
I thought they called a guard. We'll see as it slows down whether that's where it ends up.
Well, they swept that one the whole way, and it ends up slipping into the ring, so I would imagine the call must have been to try and get it into the forefoot. Not a great positioning there for that stone. Gives Team Tirinzoni the opportunity to make the double and roll towards those corner guards. Even though you might leave that red stone at the back of the forefoot, I don't think that's a rock you're necessarily worried about if you're Silvana.
Looking for the double and the roll here.
A little bit high, needs this to curl back.
It is coming over though. Now sweeping the other side again. They make the double. Well, the other rock hangs on, but that's far enough.
Can see Team Grandy attempt to hit this blue stone and roll in. If it was maybe a foot or two higher and was just a guard, you might see them draw around it, but with it biting onto the rings, likely going to have to deal with it. And the unfortunate thing is they can't really nose it or try to choke off that corner guard because of that red stone at the back of the four. So sort of have to roll to the open side and just allow Silvana the opportunity to draw around the corner guard freely.
This rock is also over curling.
One thing you can't do is jam it.
Well, they missed it enough to not jam it. They have left another corner guard, though. Silvana's going to try to use this situation now.
Yeah, if you sink one around here in a pretty good spot, there's not really much Clancy can do about it. You'll likely see her try and follow her down and make a good corner freeze. So you want to make sure that this rock's above the tee line, and, well, it will be above the tee line.
Above the tee line, Matt.
Yeah, well above the tee line, coming up quite light on that come around. Now what do you do if you're Clancy? Really, there's too many corner guards to deal with them. So you probably...
peeling's not a great option here.
No, I just... you could peel. Absolutely, you could. There's just so many guards over there that it'll take a couple shots to get rid of them. And in that time, Silvana will probably get into the rings herself. So probably just going to try and draw in and sit second shot. Make sure you're somewhere that if Silvana does go around that corner guard, you're still sitting two.
So maybe just biting the forefoot on the other side of the sheet?
Yes, I think just bite the forefoot, maybe a foot or two above the tee line on the other side. Then if Silvana goes around the corner, she'll be third shot. Then you have a couple opportunities to try that corner freeze and get yourself out of it.
And if you're 1 or 2 feet above the tee line, even if Silvana decides to try to hit and roll, the roll will probably leave the shooter on or behind the tee line. That gives you a better chance to freeze on top if you need to. This one slips a little bit deep and a little bit too far, I think, in terms of curl. Silvana can now go around and be second shot.
Not a terrible spot. Silvana does need to be that little bit more precise now. Make sure you get a good piece of the 8-foot, but absolutely wanted that maybe 2 feet higher along the same line. So Silvana Tirinzoni attempting the in-turn come around the corner guards. And sweepers on this one early too. We saw that last one come up way light, and they're going to have to put in some hard work here as well.
I'm not sure this is that much further than the other one. Almost the same weight, maybe a hair further, and now the corner guards are starting to get closer to the center line. That favors Team Grandy. They can actually come into the top 8, create maybe like a Christmas tree pattern.
Absolutely. With that one extra rock now sitting sort of straying away from the others, you put one around this and you're basically choking off that entire side of the sheet for Silvana to use. She may end up being forced to freeze that stone at the back of the forefoot if you put this in a really good spot. Likely just wanted to bite the top of the forefoot. Don't really need to be dead buried. Almost leave about a third of a rock showing so you choke off that back stone as well. I think they like the weight, just need it to get that last little bit of finish behind the guard.
It's coming over. Probably wanted to bury a hair more, I think, but not bad.
Yes, I think so, but that's a really good spot too. Still half buried. The most important part of that was to make sure that Silvana can't tap and roll to the inside. Now what she's going to probably try and do here is tap this rock a couple feet and set up a pocket at the back of the forefoot. If she can get closer to nose, it'll be difficult to remove the blue stone. Likely will leave Clancy sitting at least one, though, in that scenario.
Sweeping for the curl now. Taps the red right through the rings. The blue stone rolls towards the center line. Team Grandy, they can play the takeout here and roll back towards where they were before.
Absolutely. I think you want to pull that off here. You end up rolling too far, and Silvana will follow you, or Lena, I should say, will follow them down with that same draw and try and put it in a good spot that will allow her to hit that back one on her last for 2. You don't roll far enough, though, and you're going to leave her a little hit and roll herself. So need a very precise shot here, but if Clancy Grandy can come up with it, she's going to find herself in a very good position looking into the rest of the skip stones this end.
They've got to be careful not to over curl the stone. They don't want to jam it. Good sweep, rolls it over. Think you can get to the inside and actually push both of those red stones back? Red onto red, a little inside roll, or not there?
I think it is there. You'd have to have very good weight control and play it pretty tight to that guard, but I think you can get just enough to the inside to flop in behind. Likely very difficult to do that on this shot, so just going to freeze to the back one, it looks like. It will leave Clancy the opportunity to maybe play a tap or possibly run her own stone back, but I think that's sort of a risk you have to take.
Looks like they've opted for the draw to the button, right? The freeze, maybe?
Yes, I think they're trying to freeze that back stone and force Clancy. One thing it will do is it will allow Clancy the opportunity to follow them down and freeze. They could also play just the straight tap, but unfortunately just a little heavy rolls off. So it's just going to be a wide open hit for Clancy. I don't think you want to stay there on the nose. I think you almost want to just try and pick this out cleanly. If you stay there on the nose, it just gives something for Alina to draw down to. Big opportunity here for Clancy to just force Tirinzoni to her single point. Really the first end that we've seen in the last handful of ends that Clancy isn't under tremendous pressure at the end. Of course, we've seen great opportunities for the Tirinzoni team, and Alina Pets hasn't been able to capitalize. Now the opportunity to just come up with a clean force and take that momentum into the back half of the game.
Yeah, that last stone from Alina was fairly well thrown. Like it might have just been overswept a little bit. Good news is she has the same draw. Just played this.
So second opportunity here for Alina to come up with a big draw. Needs full forefoot to score her single point. Sweepers are working hard on this one. Carol Howard on the left, Briar Hurleman on the right, and now Silvana Tirinzoni herself coming up to help.
Needs to drag this into the button to score. They have a big drag. It chips off the rock in the top 8, and it hits one more for Team Grandy. Back of the 4, that one counts, and Team Tirinzoni struggling to get on the board. 5-0 halfway through this match.
For victims of domestic abuse, fleeing may mean leaving everything behind. There is hope. SaskTel provides brand new cell phones so that starting over is possible. Learn more at SaskTel.com/fresh start.
Imagine being able to stream every curling game from every sheet from any event, be it your Wednesday league game, bonspiel, or corporate event. Curling Stadium offers an all-inclusive streaming solution featuring high-quality cameras, ease of use, great reliability, and minimal installation. Offering your sponsors customizable ad space on your streamed curling games and being able to sell video packages to your corporate events for increased revenue. With Curling Stadium, you can stream to any device, be it your mobile phone, tablet, or computer. Push the feed to your desired platform, be it Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media. Curling Stadium is simply the way forward. Where it's commonplace in other sports to televise every game, we want to do the same. Curling is a global sport, and it's time it gets the coverage it needs. Make your curling club the next Curling Stadium.
Halfway through this championship final, Curling Stadium, Martensville, women's final. You see the score, Clancy Grandy. They're the only ones on the board right now. 5-0 over Silvana Tirinzoni. Well, scoreline right now is not what I would have expected coming into this game.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody could have expected this. I mean, just based on the raw pedigrees of these two teams, you had to think that Silvana was likely the favorite coming into this final, but Clancy's showing that they don't care about that. They've been sort of putting the screws to Silvana, and it's not like they haven't had their chances either. 2 ends in a row. Alina Pets had some shots for 4, I believe, and this is just not the Tirinzoni team that I think we've gotten used to seeing the past couple of years. Just not having their A game today.
Yeah, and Alina has struggled with her last stone last few ends. That's what's led to the steals. Team Grandy opened with 2 single steals of 1, 1, and 1 in 2, 3, and 4. That's what leads us to this juncture of the match. Well, if you're a team down by 5 halfway through, how do you regroup going into the final half of the game to give yourself a chance to win it?
Well, normally if this was a round-robin game, you probably just try and focus on making a couple shots and making sure you have some confidence going into your next one. But of course, this is the final. There is no next one. Unfortunately, with the way that it's going, you're likely not going to win this game unless Clancy decides to help you out along the way. So all you can really do is just try and focus and make sure you focus on making 8 shots each end. If you can make your 8 shots, then you'll probably get a 2, and you're just hoping that at some point Clancy sort of throws you a bone a little bit and you end up getting the opportunity for more than that. But unless Clancy's team starts missing shots, then you're not really going to consistently get the opportunity for any more than that.
Well, earlier in the week, we did see a team come back from a 5-0 deficit. Daniela Jensch was down 5-0 on Jennifer Jones. However, they had a lot more ends to work with. Jones scored 5 in the first, and Daniela eked it out in 8 ends with a steal in 8. Only 4 ends left here for Silvana to catch up.
Of course, with them meeting last weekend as well in the championship final, that one went the other way. Silvana coming away with the win. I believe it was a 5-3 victory in that affair. Then they come in this weekend. Clancy already beat them once, so possibly, making a name for herself. I think most people, just by the name Silvana Tirinzoni, would likely think this team would be the favorite in most events they enter this year, but Clancy's showing that she's not afraid to really stick it to them, and she's been aggressive from shot one this game, and it's really paid off dividends for her.
I'll be curious to see if now with a 5-point lead and only 4 ends remaining, whether Team Grandy switches up their tactics a little bit in terms of defense. As you mentioned, they have been pretty offensively minded so far.
I think they will. I think it was in the 3rd or 4th. It must have been in the 4th end when they were up 4-0, and I said it's maybe a little bit too early to really just go into full defense mode and walk up and start blindly peeling guards. But now with that extra point and 1 fewer end to go, I think we're getting pretty close to that. I think you'll just see Clancy just blindly walk up. If she sees a blue rock somewhere, she's going to hit it, and she's going to force Silvana into some tough decisions. She's going to have to place some rocks in good spots, come up with good angles that are going to help force them into a good spot.
Well, the blind hitting starts here, but don't close your eyes. You still got to make these.
Absolutely, and that's the important part. I think it's really easy when you get this kind of a lead that sometimes, not to say you sort of lose focus, but you sort of start just going through the motions of making your shots, and that's when you tend to see some weird misses, even at this highest level. So they really need to buckle down, make sure that they're still focusing in on every shot, even though the strategy may not take too much thinking or too much discussion to get through. Still need to focus on making every one of your shots to get out of this game.
You have 1 corner guard. You're not going around that. Are they going around the 2 red stones that are in the top of the rings? Use those as guards, place this in the back of the rings?
I think so. There is a slight stagger to them, so you can draw around them to the back of the 8, but try and place a good drawback there behind their guards. Those redstones are pretty close to lined up, though. It wouldn't take that much to, I think, run it back, but if Clancy decides that she wants to try doing that, she would likely spread the redstones out a little bit more. That is really unfortunate by the Tirinzoni team, moving that redstone to even more lined up with its counterpart. So now you likely won't see them try and go around those red rocks again. Clancy, I think if you're hitting this, you probably are still okay to stick around. Maybe not quite on the nose. Maybe roll a half rock out to the outside.
Even if it rolls out, I don't think she'd be unhappy. Just make the hit first.
Absolutely. Just make sure that this blue stone goes away, and they're going to have to go pretty hard if they do want to stick around.
Hits it on the opposite side, I think. Rolls. I think you want to roll all the way out now.
Absolutely. Don't leave anything around. That could be a jam possibility later.
It still might be a jam possibility all the way out, but you can still jam on that rock and have that stone going towards it stay in the 12-foot.
And after moving that redstone slightly on that last shot to the point where there really isn't a stagger anymore, instead now you're going to see Silvana try to play a hit and roll, I believe, on these. Try to roll behind her corner guard and remove one of these redstones. Could probably draw behind the blue guard, but you wouldn't be able to outcount both of the red rocks. You could likely only outcount one of them. And you would just see Clancy attempt the run back. So I'm going to try and get 2 for 1 here, remove one of these red stones, and you could get away with just hitting it on the nose, which I think might be what they're going for now.
Yeah, good plan B. Sits in front of that redstone. Definitely can still hit it out.
So just calling for the straight pick. It's difficult to tell with the angles. I don't think if you hit it by a close red, you're probably not jamming on that back red stone, but something to think about if you're the Grandy team. Kill's going to throw big weight here to make sure that this blue stone goes. Even if you lose everything and give Silvana the open draw around the corner, I think they'll be okay with that.
Yeah, that's what happens. They'll just jam it off their own stone. Shooter rolls into the side of the 12, maybe just biting this 8-foot. Tirinzoni, she's going to go up and get around the corner guard with a draw now, get into the 8-foot, and you'll be shot stone buried. You need to show a piece. You want to show it on the center line side. That jam on the back red is still possible.
Absolutely. They're trying to go to get this last minute finish. It definitely looks like it'll get there. Comes into just above the T line. Pretty much dead buried. I think you're really happy with that if you're Silvana. Definitely a confidence builder moving forward after coming up a bit short on a few draws in previous ends.
I think Clancy is called for the freeze. Would you ever consider peeling the guard? If you peel the guard...
That's exactly what I was thinking. This is a little bit surprising, honestly, with how big of a lead Clancy has at this moment. Nobody would falter for just walking up and peeling the guard. Of course, this is the better shot to make if you could walk the rock down and place it wherever you wanted, but definitely leaves the opportunity if you ever make a little bit of a mistake, if you bump and roll off the stone in the rings, it would give Silvana the opportunity to possibly hit and flop in behind and set up for something more than 2.
Yeah, the peel isn't completely risk-free. You do have to avoid jamming it onto the guard on the right side if you're peeling it that way, or into your own stone if you peel it the other way, but there is a lot of room. The good news there, they do roll off, but they do push that blue stone open on the outside, so they shouldn't be in any risk of giving up more than 2 here.
Absolutely. The only thing I was worried about with that shot was that's the only way you give up 3, I think. Yeah, that peel isn't easy, but it's a shot, or it's not a gimme, but it's a shot that should be made probably 95% of the time at this level. And if you do that, you almost never give up a 3 because you'll always have an open hit. And I think you're right. I think they did happen to just push that blue stone far enough. It wouldn't be a wide open hit, but Silvana, if she really wanted to, could maybe play the come around again, and definitely risks Clancy putting a rock in a spot that you won't be able to get to. But I think at this point, you kind of have to take some risks to try and go for a big score.
Yeah, almost a Christmas tree pattern as well. Over curl the guard a little bit. That'll give some cover to that back blue stone, and if they try to hit the top blue stone, it could jam into the red stone that is currently shot stone.
Absolutely.
And this really, if you make that decision to go and play the draw, obviously you're doing that with the hopes of trying to get 3 out of the situation. And really, it's the scoreline that is driving you to make that decision. If this was a 3-0 game, you might decide to take the 2.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the scoreline the way it is, if you only get 2 here, so you're down by 3, all Clancy really needs to do is make sure that she puts points on the board when she has hammer, and it's going to be very difficult for you to come back. Obviously, a 3 is a big extra step in coming back in this game. Looks like they're going to try and just dead freeze that stone at the back of the forefoot, although Lena Pets maybe a case of the lights once again. Sweepers had to go the entire way, and they do get it there, but it just over curls. Maybe just hasn't had her draw weight that we've seen. Of course, the 2 times they had hits to score 4, they they were both on hits and ended up missing, but last end coming up light on that draw for 1, and here once again using her sweepers the entire way and over curling.
So Clancy, she's just going to try to come and hit that blue stone out, sit for 2. You might leave a double, but she'll be pretty happy giving up 2 to Tirinzoni and taking hammer into the 6th end. So you mentioned it'd be a very comfortable situation. This is Clancy Grandy's last of the 5th end, up by 5. She's got $5,000 in her pocket this weekend already, trying to double that to $10,000 with a victory. That's a well-controlled hit and stick. Double's even pretty difficult now. You have to get across the nose a hair.
It is certainly there, but we've seen a little bit today. These are a little bit tricky. We aren't seeing as much finish as maybe we're used to, but I don't think you really have a choice if you're Silvana. If there's anything to score more than 1, you have to take it on, I would imagine. If the straight hit isn't there, there is always, I know it sounds crazy, but there is always the run back too.
The run double?
Yeah. And I think you probably have a better chance at taking that on and trying to make it for 2 rather than just drawing for 1 in this situation. But if the straight hit is there, obviously around the guard too, I think you have to go for it.
Yeah, the guard and the rock in the house, from the hack, I think it's probably edge to edge, which means you definitely can get slightly to the inside.
It's like they're still trying to figure out some way that they can score 2 points here. I think they agree that one in this situation just isn't enough. Now, that's not to say that if they take one, they're going to shake hands, but in terms of finding a realistic path to winning this game, it starts with more than one.
I think the question is, if you take on this hit down the middle, inside out, cross the face a little bit, does your shooter roll to the right and nudge your own blue stone? Because if you nudge that 3 or 4 inches, you're not second shot anymore.
It's certainly possible. You don't need to move it a whole lot to miss out, and looks like at the end of the day, they just don't see something reliable for 2, so gonna end up playing the straight draw for 1, and this is a huge win if you're Clancy Grandy.
Absolutely. It's also an indication that there won't be handshakes here unless she misses it, because if she was going to shake, if she only took 1, she would have taken on the shot for 2. So final stone here, Silvana Tirinzoni. She struggled with her last stone in the last few ends, giving up steals. The sweepers, again, working really hard on this. They just played the draw down a very similar path, attempting to make a freeze. It over-curled last time, but the weight was good. She did use her sweepers last time as well. They drag it in there. Silvana says, yes, you got it this time. It is a single point for Team Tirinzoni, but Team Grandy still in full control of this game, 5-1 through 5.
Imagine a place with endless possibilities. Imagine a place where people come together to build families, businesses, and communities. Imagine a place where small-town values and progressive qualities are in perfect harmony. Imagine a place rich with so much vitality. Imagine your future in Martensville.
Imagine being able to stream every curling game from every sheet from any event, be it your Wednesday league game, bonspiel, or corporate event. Curling Stadium offers an all-inclusive streaming solution featuring high-quality cameras, ease of use, great reliability, and minimal installation. Offering your sponsors customizable ad space on your streamed curling games and being able to sell video packages to your corporate events for increased revenue. With Curling Stadium, you can stream to any device, be it your mobile phone, tablet, or computer. Push the feed to your desired platform, be it Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media. Curling Stadium is simply the way forward. Where it's commonplace in other sports to televise every game, we want to do the same. Curling is a global sport, and it's time it gets the coverage it needs. Make your curling club the next Curling Stadium.
Welcome back to Curling Stadium, Martensville International. 5-1, Team Grandy leads Team Silvana Tirinzoni. Silvana Tirinzoni just getting on the board for the first time, a single point in the 5th end, and Team Grandy has the hammer back. Hasn't seen the hammer since the first end, and they've got a very comfortable lead. Matt Hall with me, 2019 World Junior Champion, Mr. Probability himself.
Yeah, and the probabilities aren't good for Team Tirinzoni, especially after hogging that first rock at the end before we came back. Wasn't really all that close, and unfortunately, that's just one missed opportunity to get a center guard up for yourself.
Yeah, instead of having a chance to put 2 guards, you'll have to settle for 1 and make use of it.
So you'll see Briar Hurleman being asked to throw up another center guard, and eventually, after this next shot, once Clancy gets the opportunity to peel, she will walk up and peel. It'll be interesting to see where she ends up putting this next stone, if she draws to the wing again, or if she's going to attempt the tick, and looks like by that broom she will attempt the tick. So looking for just through or a nice hack weight, just try and hit about a third or a quarter of the stone, move it off the center line, likely push it into the rings with how close it is.
Now, last season, the World Curling Federation experimented with the no-tick rule at the World Championships, both the World Men's and the World Women's. If a guard landed on the center line, it could not be ticked off the center line. How did that change the complexion of games and comebacks, and did those percentages improve for the team trailing?
Well, I think it definitely made things a lot closer, especially when you look at the last end. When you're in the last end and you're needing to steal, usually for the men, that's about an 85-90% chance of winning with the hammer in the last end, tied. And for the women, it's a bit closer to 80, but still a very good percentage. One of the things we saw with when that changed though was we saw a lot of comeback steals in close games to win in extra ends. Especially we saw, I believe, a couple losses by Carrie Anderson at the World Women's that I specifically remember off the top of my head, where she gave up steals in the last end or late in games, and the tick rule definitely came into effect then. I'm not sure if it really affects things all that much when the score is as lopsided as maybe it is right now. Definitely gives them the opportunity to uh, play the two guards and maybe be a bit more aggressive, but possibly the percentages are a little bit closer to normal in the middle of a game with a lopsided score. Definitely makes a difference when you come down to the end of the game in a tie game.
Well, a mistake there by Carl Howell, putting that guard right on top of the other one on a stagger makes the double peel much easier. Doesn't get them both all the way out, but it is pretty far over now. The rings are wide open. You can always draw to the 4-foot now on your last rock if you're Clancy Grandy and take one.
And you're sort of running out of chances here if you're Silvana Tirinzoni. Really, there anywhere you throw a guard, Clancy's going to get the chance to hit it. Now, they'll try and put it in a spot that makes things a little bit difficult. If you look at where Silvana's gesturing with her broom, if you put a guard there, both peels are, you have to be a little bit careful. Of course, you could jam the peel into the other blue guard and possibly have it roll into the rings. And if you try and peel it the other way, it goes towards that redstone at the back of the rings. Now, this slipping a little bit too deep, so one of the turns is fairly free for Team Grandy. They're going to take that on with the intern. We definitely need to, well, I mean, there's no way around it. You definitely need a miss from Clancy's team now if you want to get anything set up.
I mean, quick peek over at Schwaller versus Yanagisawa. Schwaller leading 3-2 with last stone in the 5th end still, I believe. Quite a few rocks in play there. Well, you don't have your own guard right now, so trying to make use of that rock in the top 12 as a guard.
Yeah, definitely would have liked to roll that all the way out if you're the Grandy team. Silvana now with the opportunity, going to try and sink one around to the back of the 8-foot, I would imagine. Just try and keep some rocks in play, and eventually you might be able to find some place where you can make a good freeze, although this really needs to keep moving. Probably got it deep enough that you can't just play the straight hit. Likely you're too close to jamming it on that back stone, but it is a very short run back here for Kayla McMillan.
Yeah, this time you can hit it on the high side. You'll lose the shooter, so you won't leave the guard there.
And even if you do dead jam the rock there, it's sitting in the top of the 4-foot, so very difficult for Silvana to utilize that to her advantage.
Flirting with missing it here. She does go by everything, catches her own on the back. Well, actually, that still improves it a little bit. She certainly didn't need that rock, that redstone in the back of the rings. But the main objective wasn't accomplished. guess two options here, Matt. Either just guarding the shot stone. They talked about putting another rock in the rings. Under normal circumstances, if you were just trying to score one, maybe guarding is the most prudent call, but you are down by 4 right now. Maybe you need to take a chance and put another one in, but not a great setup for stealing more than one right now.
Yeah, and it's tough to say whether stealing one is enough. You think if you steal one each of the remaining ends, you're only going to lose. You're still going to lose by 1. You need to have a steal 2 somewhere. Whether this is the time you go for it, I don't know. Either way, it's probably still too early to make another play in the rings. Regardless, you'll likely see them guard this for at least 1, maybe even 2 more shots and try and come in with Alina's last to a spot that would make it difficult.
I agree with you. It is still Silvana's rock, so still this one and 2 more to come. And like you said, you need if you're going to try to steal your way to a victory, you've got to steal 2 at some point. And so you've got to ask yourself, is this the right setup for the steal of 2, or do you need to try again in the next end, have those first couple of guards set up a bit better to give yourselves a better chance at stealing 2?
Yeah, I don't think this really is the setup for the steal 2. The only thing you might be able to do for that is play the wide in-turn draw around both the red and the blue, maybe to the back of the 4-foot or back of the 8-foot. Sit 2 that way, and then you're hoping that Clancy completely misses the run back if that's what she decides to go for. Now they're going to have that guard just doesn't quite maybe curl another inch or 2 that they would have liked, so they're going to have another chance at this short run back.
Not without some risk, though. If you hit this and don't hit the blue rock at the back, then Alina Pats can draw in behind the guard and sit 2.
For sure. It looks like she's going to be very close on this.
She's got it this time. Sticks it right there. Good execution that time.
For those of you who are still wondering, the men's final is still in the 5th end, so maybe a bit of a slow game going on over there. Coming up to Skip's Rocks here, Schwaller with a 3-2 lead with the hammer and a number of their own stones in the 4-foot. So Yanagisawa is going to have to come up with something nice there.
Well, Matt, they looked at tapping the red stone back. Maybe tap it if you can get to the inside, roll a bit behind your center guard. They also talked about maybe drawing to the back of the 4.
Yeah, to be quite honest, I kind of liked the tap while I was looking at it. It may not even be the best for the first shot. If you tap it back, you probably leave Clancy with the opportunity to just pick something out. But it would give you something to freeze to on your next stone. This one is also fine, but you need to be very precise about where you place this stone. You almost need to put it directly beside that red rock, but still be enough to be shot. If you slip in behind, of course, it's just going to be a very short raise again for Clancy.
Well, these 2 sweepers have been working hard this game. Seems like every time Alina is throwing the draw, they've been sweeping very hard. They get it to shot stone side of the button. This red onto blue, though, is fairly simple, I think.
Yeah, I don't think this will be a long discussion here. And already with that red stone, I think obviously I wouldn't be surprised to see handshakes if there's a score of 1 for Clancy here. But with that other red stone sitting around the rings, you really don't need to be all that cute with this. Just make sure you make the run back and leave it up to Alina to come up with another great shot. I think you'd probably like to just stuff it there. You'll still be above the tee line, and it'll make things very hard for Alina. If you ever just roll down into the open, it's just an open draw. So Clancy Grandy's first stone here in the 6th end, looking to make a very short run back. Put herself in a great position to end this game right here in this end.
Short run back. Try to leave your own red rock there. They've got to sweep hard to get it by the guard. They don't. It clips it. Catches on their other red stone. The blue guard actually slips in, but it is only fourth shot.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what you can do here if you're Silvana, other than just try to straight guard. But of course, you can't just guard the blue rock because you'll leave the red short run back. And if you guard the red stone, Clancy can just come down and pick out that blue rock for a single point. So need to be very careful with this. Might end up playing some kind of tap. Of course, I think anything you do, Clancy is always going to have some kind of shot to score. I really don't think you can make things very difficult for her.
Yeah, you pretty much need to get a mistake to score here. It would have to be, if you're talking about tennis, an unforced error, because you're not, like you said, not going to be forcing Clancy into anything particularly difficult on her last.
Yeah, the more I look at this, the more I'm not really seeing a whole lot for the Tirinzoni team. What Silvana is gesturing now might be your best option, is just to play a tap on that red stone, push it back far enough to sit two, but of course that's just going to leave a nose double for Clancy. Guard, obviously, as I already went through, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You're always going to leave them with something.
If there were ever a double on the two reds, you could play that and sit three, but I don't think the angle is really there. It's pretty tough.
No, it might be there, but you have to hit it so thin. You have to come into the side of that red. If you threw it hard enough to get it out, you're probably just leaving that blue wide open on the button anyways, and it would be an open hit for one. You do still want to try to find some kind of tough shot for Clancy to throw.
I think they've decided to put this into the house. Top of the 8, maybe? Similar spot to where the guard was, but just in the house?
I think they've decided to corner freeze the red.
Okay.
So try to get basically try to freeze as close to the nose of that redstone as you can while still blocking that blue. If you can get a slight angle so that any hit on the one you're about to throw pushes the red one by the shot stone, but you still want to cover the shot stone a little bit to make sure that Clancy can't just pick it out.
They've actually come onto their own stone, and
it'll
can
just
Clancy
be a really
just blast
short.
It?
Yep, very short angle run. I think if you hit this red anywhere high side with good weight, you're scoring one, and probably ending this game.
Well, Team Grandy, they've dominated this game so far. 5-1 lead over Tirinzoni. Sixth then here, and an opportunity to maybe put that champion's check in the bag. Big weight. Hit the red. Both blues should be spinning away, and I think you can get them both out fairly easily. Team Grandy, final stone. Looks pretty good. Yes. Red onto blue. The two blues spill out. And Silvana Tirinzoni offers her hand. It is sweet revenge for Clancy Grandy. after losing the final last weekend, and Saguenay, they take this one in Martensville. Well, a pretty dominant performance from Team Grandy in this final.
Yeah, a completely different team than what we saw last night in their final round robin game against Jones. I'm not sure what they ate last night, but I think they'll have to add it to their diet for future tournaments. But absolutely just came in right from the first end, decided that they were going to go right after this very strong Tirinzoni team. Dodged a couple bullets along the way, but kept their composure and were able to pull it out here with a very quick, big win for them.
Yeah, the final score is 7-1. We will be ending our coverage of the women's final, but the men's final is still ongoing on our other stream. We will jump over there and join Sean Joyce in just a second. I believe Team Yanagasawa may have just tied the game. I didn't quite see the end result of that last end, but I think it is tied 3-3 now.
It was a steal of one, yep.
Congratulations once again to Team Grandy. What a great start to the season. Matt, thanks very much for joining us. And if you're watching this stream, let's hop on over to the other game, the men's final. Yanagasawa and Schwaller were signing off from the women's draw.
Saskatchewan, you know SaskTel, because we're everywhere. Because being everywhere keeps us connected to you. You are what matters most. With SaskTel sponsorships, we get to be a part of your community. From the dance competitions, to the rodeos, to helping discover and embrace technology across the province, we're here with you, and we're here for you. It's easy to get started. All you need to do is apply. Every year, SaskTel contributes nearly $3 million to approximately 1,000 nonprofits, charities, associations, and events in more than 200 communities across Saskatchewan. So keep dancing, keep laughing, keep discovering, and we'll be there to help, to lend a hand, and join in the fun. SaskTel cares. Always has, always will, because we are dedicated to our home. To apply for sponsorship, visit sastel.com/sponsorships.